All right, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai. I want to give all praises to Yahweh Bashin Yahweh Shai, and double honors and blessings to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. And salutation to you brothers out there teaching the truth and sincerity. And shalom to the elect. Is the brother Urala Abban Yahweh Ban Yasha'Allah. And this is my motivation video focusing on the tribe of Gad. All right. And how we know who the tribes are through prophecy, because you got guys out there that's saying the 12 tribes ain't the 12 tribes, but ain't edifying or showing they way of saying believing in that, and so we us GMS we show proof of everything, and so we the brother Ainad came up with the idea for all of us to come up, edify on each tribe, and we all chose a tribe, and I'm be focused on Gad and the scripture Genesis 49:19. So through the Spirit, um, hope edify you brothers and few sisters that are watching, and we're gonna get to it. In Genesis chapter 49 verse 19, it says, Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. All right, and it says when it says a troop shall overcome him, was talking about the so-called white man and his U.S. cavalry. You know, which what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go into like a few people, two people names who led the attacks on the North American Indians. Okay, but before that, I want to go to this website. All right, that I came across. I don't know. Is somebody who's in the truth that know. I ain't gonna bank off what they got too much, but I'm gonna read a little bit of what they got here. Um, it's from IsraeliteCornerstone.com. It says Genesis 49:19. Gad, a troop shall overcome him. It says the troop that overcame the tribe of Gad was the United States Cavalry. Landed on Plymouth Rock in 1620 is what begun this war, which then came to a cease at the Battle of Wounded Knee in 1890. This is a well over 77 million Indians were killed during this time period of 200 years. They murdered so many North American Indians to establish church and state. It says, but he shall overcome at the last. The tribe of Gad shall overcome America and all the nations when the Savior comes for his second coming, which is talking about Yahweh Shai. But during the time of those wars, which if you look up the War of 1812, it was many wars that took place from that time with the Europeans and the Native American Indians. Um, one of the leading guys was what I got right here is George Armstrong Custer, General Custer, and you also got Andrew Jackson. But we just gonna read a little through, a little history on these guys, and just give you edification of who they were. All right, so it's in George Armstrong Custer. Got the little history on him. He died at age 36, a little bighorn, which was his last war against the Indians, man. Okay, so we'll read some stuff on him, and then we'll move on to the next to Andrew Jackson. Okay, so George Armstrong Custer, December 5th, 1839 to June 25th, 1876, was a United States Army officer and cavalry commander in the American Civil War and the American Indian Wars. So he is the main, like it says, he was the main commander it says American Indian Wars. Not so that weren't just one war. He was in majority, like all the wars that was against American Indians. All right. This is raised in Michigan and Ohio. Custer was admitted to West Point in 18 1857, where he graduated last in his class. We would skip that. We ain't got to read too much on that. Um, Trying to hit points, you know. It says, let me see. Let me jump down. Here we go. I'll read right here. After the Civil War, Custer remained a major general in the United States Volunteers until they were mustered out in February 1866. He reverted to his permanent rank of captain and was appointed a lieutenant colonel in the 7th Cavalry Regiment in July 1866. He was dispatched to the West in 1867 to fight in the American Indian Wars. On June 25th, 1876, while leading the 7th Regiment at the Battle of the Little Bighorn in Montana Territory against a coalition of Native American tribes, he and all his regiment, which included two of his brothers, were killed. The battle was popularly known in American history as Custer's Last Stand. Custer and his regiment were defeated so decisively at the Little Bighorn that it has overshadowed all his prior achievements. Right, so he played a part in the war against the American Indians though, but he got his ass killed in that last battle at a Little Bighorn. Okay, so I just wanted to bring a little a little history on who the guy was, and then we're gonna read up on Andrew Jackson. Then we're gonna go into a little matter of fact before we go to Andrew Jackson, Salaki, we can read on the American Indian Wars real quick. I don't know what's happening. Okay. This is the American Indian Wars or Indian Wars were the multiple armed conflicts between European government and colonists. This is in later American settlers or the United States government and the native peoples of North America. These conflicts occurred across the North American continent from the time of the earliest colonial settlements in 1924. In many cases, wars resulted from competition for resources and land ownership as Europeans and later Americans encroached onto territory which had been inhabited by Native American Indians for the previous century. There was populated pressure as settlers expanded their territory, generally pushing indigenous people northward and westward. Warfare and raiding also took place as a result of wars between European powers in North America. These enlisted their Native American allies to help them conduct warfare against each other's settlements. It says, many conflicts were local, involving disputes over land use, and some entailed cycles of reprisal. Particularly in later years, conflict was spurred by ideologies such as manifest destiny, which it's gonna tell you. It says which held that the United States was destined to expand from coast to coast on the North American continent. It's a which that's prophecy, man. They it's part of prophecy, but they knew going back to when they first came over here to America, they knew where they was going, man. All right, they knew through the scriptures that that the American Indians was over here already, man. It says but but when they say manifest destiny, it's through prophecy because we at all the wickedness that our people were doing and prophesy that we gonna be getting killed, man. We gonna go under slavery under these heathens with the so-called white man. Okay, this is which is in the scriptures, man. This is which held that the United States was destined to expand from coast to coast on the North American continent. The In the 1830s, the United States had a policy of any Indian removal east of the Mississippi River, which was planned large scale. And we're gonna read a little on that too. The Indian Removal Act. It says which was planned large-scale removal of indigenous people from the areas where Americans were settling, particularly in the years leading up to congressional passage of the related acts. There was armed conflict between settlers and Native Americans. Some removal was achieved through sale or exchange of territory treaties. We're gonna read some more on here. Um, Effects on indigenous population. It said the 2010 census found 2,932,248 Americans who identified themselves as being Native American or Alaskan Native, about 0.9% of the UN population. No census exists on how many Native people lived in the Americas before the arrival of Columbus, but extensive research has been and continues to be conducted. Estimates on the population of pre-Columbus North America range from a low of 2.1 million. I don't know if I said that right. 1976 to 7 million people. Russell Thornton to 18 million. Uh, what's it? Dope Bins, 1983. As a result of infection disease, conflicts with Europeans, wars between tribes, assimilation, migration to Canada and Mexico, decline in birth rates, the number of Native Americans dropped to below half a million in the 19th century. It's a scholar believed that the overwhelming main causes were new infections disease carried by European explorers and traders. They also was killing our people too. You know, they was gunning our people down, and yeah, through the disease too. Because them fucking Europeans were nasty, man. All right, we taught them ways to start keeping themselves clean, brushing their teeth. They don't wash their ass, so forth. They not clean. They carry diseases, man. You know, and they killed our people by putting a smallpox in our blankets and so forth. All right, and that's how they was able to overcome us. So it says so like you what I leave off. It says scholars believe that the overwhelming main causes were new infectious diseases carried by European explorers and traders. Native Americans had no acquired immunity to such disease, which had been chronic in Eurasian population for over 5 centuries. For instance, some estimates indicate case fatality rates of 80 to 98% in Native American population during smallpox epidemics. See that? Um, I'll read a little more. Just the last part. The United States Census Bureau, 1894, provided their estimate of death due specifically to war during the 102 years between 1789 and 1891, including 8,500 natives and 5,000 whites killed in individual affairs. Right. So now, since we went over that, which I should have read the Andrew Jackson, but it's all good. And this is Andrew Jackson, as you see. He was one of the 7 presidents of the United States, but he was also one of the commanding leaders in a few battles, which right here I'm gonna name off against the American Indians. Um, what is it? The Creek War. The what's that? The Battle of Emekfall and Anactochapo Creek. Battle of Horseshoe Bend, War of 1812. So he played a major part in this war. Battle of Pensacola, Battle of New Orleans, the First Seminole War. You know, Conquest of Florida. And I'll read a little bit on him. This is Andrew Jackson, March 15th, 1767 to June 8th, 1845, was an American soldier and a statesman who served as the 7th president of the United States from 1829 to 1837 and is considered the founder of the Democrat Party. Look at that. It says he was born near the end of the colonial era, somewhere near the thin, unmarked border between North and South Carolina, into a recently immigrated Scot-Irish farming family of the Revolutionary Modest mean during American modest means during American War. Jackson, whose family supported the revolutionary cause, acted as a courier. At age 13, he was captured and mistreated by the British Army. He later became a lawyer. He was also elected to congressional office, um, first to the U.S. House of Senate Representative and twice to the U.S. Senate. Okay, this why I should have just jumped at. In 1801, Jackson was appointed colonel in the Tennessee militia, which became his political as well as military base. He owned hundreds of slaves who worked on the Hermitage plantation in 1806. He killed a man in a duel over the matter of honor regarding his wife Rachel. He gained national fame through his role in the War of 1812, which like I said before, that was the major war against the Native American Indians. Okay, because a lot of those wars that I named off was connected to the War of 1812. It's called the War of 1812, but it was other wars that was part of the War of 1812. Being one that's for the name, most famously where he won a decisive victory over the main British invasion of army at the Battle of New Orleans. Cause that was also part of the War of 1812. It says in response to the conflict with the Seminole and Spanish Florida, he invaded the territory in 1818. This led directly to the First Seminole War and the Adams-Honest Treaty of 1819, which formally transferred Florida from Spain to the United States. Right, and the First Seminole War was also another part of the War of 1812. So it it was a lot going on as far as wars with the Europeans, the so-called white men, and the Native American Indians, which GAD, which you also had the other tribes here too, Ephraim, and Reuben. You know, it it, um, it was Salaki. I lost what I was gonna say, but yeah, it was a lot going on. It was a lot of wars happening, man. Okay, so that was it on him. Now we're gonna get into the atrocity that happened. Oh, before that, uh, Salakia. Let's go to Indian removal. Yeah, I did say I'm gonna add a file in the Indian removal. Okay, yeah. It's the Indian removal. This was a policy of the United States government in the 19th century, whereby Native Americans were forcibly removed from their ancestral homelands in the eastern United States to the land of the west of the Mississippi River, thereafter known as the Indian Territory. So the so-called white man came with a little what do you call it? Came up with this act to remove the Indians out their own homeland, man. Okay, to remove them out of their homeland to where most of them were settling at. You know, it says that policy has been characterized by some scholars as part of a long-term genocide of Native Americans by European. Right, see that policy has been characterized by some scholars as part of a long-term genocide, which it was a genocide, man. This is of Native American Indians. Okay, it says by European settlers to North America in colonial period and citizens of the United States until the mid 20th century. The policy traces its direct origin to the administration of James Monroe, though it addressed conflict between European Americans and Native Americans that had been occurring since the 17th century and were escalated into the early 19th century as white settlers continually pushing westward. The Indian Removal Act was the key law that forced the removal of the Indians and was signed into law by President Andrew Jackson on May 28th, 1830. Right, so they came over here and uh, uh, took over the land of the North American Indians, and then came up with a policy act to remove them out of their homeland, man. That's genocide, man. That's the same thing. So that been going on since then, man. Cause Judah went through it, when they pull us out the ghettos, all right, and but that's another topic. Yeah, I just wanted to read that. Now we're gonna go into the atrocity. It says genocide of indigenous people, colonization, and genocide in the Americas. It says over the course of more than 4 centuries, from the 1490s into the 1900s, European and white Americans engaged in an unbroken string of genocide campaign against the native peoples of the Americas. The indigenous people of the America, we're talking about the Native American Indians, um, have experienced massacres, tortures, terror, sexual abuse, systematic military occupations, removal of indigenous people from their ancestral territories, forced removal of Native American children to military like boarding schools, atonement, in the policy of termination. You see that, man? So just show you how fucking wicked that Esau is, man. Okay, that's a genocide of what was happening to our people. All right, it says we experienced a massacre, torture, terror, sexual abuse, systematic military occupation, removal of indigenous people from the ancestral territories, forced removal. So they forced us out of the Salakia. They forced the Native Americans out of their own territory. That's robbery, man. It says forced removal of Native American children to military like boarding schools, atonement, and a policy of termination. Salakia doesn't say allotment and a policy of termination. Uh, that was no, nope. We can keep going a little bit more on it. It said from the earliest years of colonialism, conquistadors like Vasco Nunes de Balboa would brazenly advocate genocide against the native population. In the 1700s, British militia like William Trent and Simeon Ecayer gave smallpox exposed blankets to Native American emissaries as gifts at Fort Pitt to convey the smallpox to the Indians in one of the most famously documented cases of germ warfare. While it is uncertain how successful such attempts were against the target population, historians have noted that history records numerous instances of the French, the Spanish, the English, and, and, and later on the American using smallpox as uh, as an ignoble means to an end. For smallpox was more feared by the Indian than the bullet. He could be exterminated and subjugated more easily and quickly by death bringing virus than by the weapon of the white man. Right. Let me keep reading. So the British High Commander Jeffrey Amherst authorized the intentional use of the disease as a biological weapon against indigenous population during the Pontiac Rebellion, saying, "You would do well to try to inoculate the Indians by means of blankets, as well as to try every other method that can serve